Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I am your host, DPalm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. Follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. Follow the entire MTR network at, you guessed it, the MTR network. You found us. Don't lose us. Subscribe in the iTunes store. Subscribe anywhere podcasts are given away for absolutely free, including Spotify. That way you've got a friend who says, I want to listen to podcasts, but I don't get how to listen to them. Easiest thing in the world. We're on Spotify now. I share the links on my Instagram at tpalm66. You can click during my story, and you can click on the top left, and it takes you right to Spotify. I'll open it for you via the app. I'm explaining this because I have people literally ask me, they see me run the thing in the Instagram story, how do I listen to the show? I'm like, but the thing says Spotify. Anyway, I'm explaining it here. I'll explain it as many times as I have to because I want everyone to listen to things that happen on this show, such as this week's guest. So I'm going to be honest with y'all, man. So like this week was long for me. I had to fly off to the West Coast for work. I had to fly back. I'm very tired, jet lag, all that fun stuff. And I kind of resolved to doing a solo show. I was going to crank it out on Sunday. But, of course, the email goes off right before I'm getting on the plane. Like literally as I'm at the concourse. And it's my boy Justin from the Three Fifths Podcast. He says, hey, man, do you have a guest? And I know he's only here. I know the only reason he reached out was to torment me ahead of Georgia, Florida, which we'll talk about. But so much happened this week, I can't think of a better co-host. What up, Justin?
So, full disclosure, when I sent that email, I completely forgotten about Georgia, Florida.
Bullshit. Okay. No, tell that lie to the people. I know what you did.
Believe it or not, I think we have similar views about Florida, Georgia. And I think
I'm choosing not and to believe it, and that's fine. Let's not get mired in the lies. Let's just move on from that. You didn't know what game was next for Florida. Okay, sure, that's fine.
No, I knew that was next. I just didn't know it was like now.
Oh yeah, two teams with the exact same record. Yeah,
we do not have the same. Oh shit!
Yes, we do.
Once. Shit.
Yeah, as you and I can have the bravado up front, and we'll talk about it as we go. We can have the bravado up front, but at the end of the day, these are two teams with the exact same record.
Yeah, wow.
And
I got nothing for that.
And let's just say mutual opponent LSU. It doesn't look great for your boys.
So okay, yeah, we'll talk about LSU when we get to Florida, Georgia.
All that nonsense. But let's talk about this first. We've reached a point in the calendar. So June and July are kind of the dead months in sports. Everyone knows this. It's widely acknowledged because baseball. We've reached October is now at a point because they're trying to expand the NBA season so there aren't as many back-to-backs. That's why the NBA is back so quickly. But now we're at a place where all the major sports are happening. Football, full swing. Basketball, where we're going to talk about it, but these early season games, people are like, regular season doesn't matter. Don't tell the players. It seems to matter to them as we're less than a week in, and I've got great coverage on the basketball to do. Hockey's already back, and let's not forget the most important of American sports. MTV's The Challenge is really hitting its final stride here. We've got an amazing cast, and you're not a challenge guy, are you?
So I was a big challenge guy in college, and I sort of fell off.
No, everyone grows out. Everyone outgrows it. I never did.
I don't know if I outgrew it because if it's on and I see it on, yes, I'm watching it. Like it's not
At a certain point, you're like, wait, I'm like emotionally invested in the lives of these. At the time, 20-something degenerates, but now, like, first of all, I'm older than most of the cast, which is a weird feeling. And the ones who I'm not older than, I'm like, well, why don't you have a real job? So it's a weird experience. I'm not gonna lie, in your mid-30s to be watching it. But I know Felder watches it, so I'm trying to sneak him on before the finale happens. But I did ignore baseball, as we all should ignore baseball. But the World Series is set. LA, Boston. You have to imagine MLB is pretty happy with this outcome, right?
Yeah, they have what I'm being told is their best team in Boston and one of their brightest personalities in Puig. If you are baseball, you are happy about this.
Well, not even that. Like, it's two traditional markets. It's not like a Colorado, no offense, Colorado, or Houston, no offense, Houston. It's two big marquee teams. It's two big marquee names. It's got cross-coastal appeal. You might lose some in the middle, but I think that as far as baseball perfect storms go, this is kind of a ratings one. And spoilers, the ratings are still going to be bad.
Yeah, I don't. As a casual watcher of baseball who really only watches baseball when I'm around my parents because they are huge Yankees fans,
There you go.
I don't know how to fix that for baseball. Like it to me on the outside, it looks like it's becoming a regional sport, and I don't know how they address that or how they fix that.
And I would argue in ways that the regional sport aspect isn't a bad thing. For a long time, college football was, and now it's changed into some sort of all or nothing weird proposition where it's almost unfun to watch around people. Because winning like the SEC used to matter. Now it's like, well, why are you win national titles? Like, well, the SEC still matters, doesn't it? Anyway, I think you're right. I think baseball is becoming more regional. What's going to always keep it afloat, and people say baseball's dying, it will never die because it's live programming during dead summer months that can host a lot of fucking commercials. So
Yes.
that alone will prop up this sport foreverest until the challenge goes to the summers. Now, I'm not saying they should run the challenge in the summers. I think Tuesdays during football season is a great place for the challenge. But let's have the conversation because I do believe it's a plan in baseball as America's fourth major sport. A non-major sport that we covered last week on the podcast was gymnastics. And I made a joke about Mary Bono because Mary Bono, the widow of the late Sonny Bono, she was named the interim chair of USA Gymnastics. And a tweet of hers was exposed with her blacking out the Nike swoosh on her shoes before an engagement in reference to Colin Kaepernick being signed. Simone Biles, the most visible and important athlete in USA Gymnastics, came out in stark opposition to her statement, and we wondered aloud, would Miss Bono last the full Scaramucci? Well, it saddens me too. Well, not saddens me. It reaffirms the fact that I might be a wizard to tell you she did not indeed last a full mooch. Just 5 days. Actually, 3 calendar days because 2 of those are weekend days. After her appointment as interim president and CEO of USA Gymnastics was announced, Mary Bono, former Republican congressman from California, has announced she's resigning. Now, this is not good for USA Gymnastics. We're very about that. Her appointment was due to USA Gymnastics covering up the Larry Nassar investigation and allegations for years. And the fact that Bono was the former principal at Baker Daniels, a firm which helped USA Gymnastics hide why Larry Nassar was not attending events in late 2015 while the nonprofit quietly investigated allegations of sexual abuse. That's not why she was fired. Stepped down, whatever you want to call it. She was alleviated of her post because she pissed off the loudest, most important voice in USA Gymnastics, Simone Biles, and she did it at a time when they need sponsor support from people like Nike. Now, I'm not one to dance on anyone's grave, and Mary Bono is not going to be hurting for jobs or employment. People love hiring bigots. But I got to say that a quick reaction from USA Gymnastics is a nice change.
Yeah, USA Gymnastics looked up and said, "Oh, our most talented athlete and the most popular athlete, our biggest name, is unhappy with this person. Yeah, let's not let this turn into a months or years long rivalry that generates content of what's going on with USA Gymnastics. Let's do the easy thing and get rid of her now."
And it was the easy thing. It was smart. Like we mentioned last week that when Simone Biles mentioned she did not want to train anymore at the camps that Nassar had been in charge of the medical care there, those camps were shuttered within days. When she blinks, USA Gymnastics jumps. This is an athlete who is not in a sport that gets as much recognition aside from once every 4 years, using the leverage she has to affect actual change. And it's not going to get the press or headlines of LeBron opening schools or players kneeling during the national anthem. But this is how you use your position and your leverage to affect real change in your sport. This is what, when people say, I'd love for the Final Four teams to strike and demand to be paid and treated equitably by the NCAA. That won't happen just because there are so many people involved. But when you've got a sport centered around one singular personality, this can happen. Serena Williams. Anyway.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's wild how many of these sports that are kind of niche sports need these athletes, and it's nice to see athletes finally kind of recognizing that.
Although you have to, I refuse to believe that Nike did not send a strongly worded letter to the French Open after Serena was gracious in public. Nike probably pulled them to the side and said, if you ever say that our athlete can't wear something that we made ever again.
Oh, bro. So apparently Serena's coach is out there challenging the coaching rules because that's what she got penalized by at the U.S. Open. The fact that his challenge is being made public means it's probably going to happen. The fact that they felt okay not to say that you can go out there and make this statement, that Serena's team and camp okayed it because he may be her coach, but make no mistake, he works for her.
Right.
The fact that they're allowing this to even be stated in a public forum tells you that maybe, just maybe, they're realizing just how much flex they can do. Because I think they can get this rule changed because it is a ridiculous rule.
Yeah. And I hope it changes. Again, it is a sport seeing their most popular personality, athlete, the most talented person in their field, the person that gets all of the headlines, dissatisfied. You make that person happy. It's that we can even say we see it in team sports. If your star athlete, if the star of your team is unhappy, you do things to ensure that they are happy, which is why Kawhi Leonard is in Toronto, because the Spurs thought they were bigger than their biggest star.
Magic Johnson got a coach fired and no one talks about it. Anyway, let's stay in gymnastics for a quick second and kind of impress upon you why the firing of Mary Bono was important and why it kind of had to happen. Because you got to remember the previous leadership literally oversaw the systematic rape and abuse of hundreds of girls. And it's important that the next hire is right. Because in the same week that this happened with Mary Bono, former USA Gymnastics CEO Steve Pinney, who she replaced, was indicted and arrested for tampering with evidence in the Larry Nassar case. He apparently was removing documents and trying to influence some of the FBI agents working on the case with gifts and potential inducements of hiring once they left. And this is it. This is why you had to get it right. This is why. Like people might say, oh, it's dangerous that the athletes running things, which is always kind of racist. But it's exemplified here as to why the hire has to be right, why people have to be on board. And if your biggest voice is this vocal, this early, swift action is needed. Some people say you don't pull someone too early as far as coaching a team. This isn't coaching a team. It's running a business. And when you've got the PR problems that, to put lightly, that USA Gymnastics does, Mary Bono can't be out here fumbling easy handoffs. Just can't do it.
Right. The argument can be made that she was not the person to put in this position in the first place, given her views and record in Congress. But hey, they made the call and they have course corrected, as they like to say.
I love course corrected is the best. It is so such a lie. But it's nice.
Yes.
It's very nice. I have next on a rundown sticking to sports, but let's just stay with sticking to sports before we go to the NFL and talk about the WWE. And no one really wants to talk about the WWE right now because the WWE has found themselves in the middle of a very messy situation. So for those who don't know, World Wrestling Entertainment had been doing international shows as kind of an addendum and making even more money for the company. They ran a Saudi Arabia show earlier this year, and it was basically a 3-hour infomercial for the progressive and evolving, changing Saudi Arabia. And it was paid for and requested by the Crown Prince, and you could tell because he wanted a lot of his old stars there. That's why The Undertaker was there. That's why they dusted off Kane. That's why Shawn Michaels is scheduled to be in a tag match, his first match in over 10 years, in Saudi Arabia in the coming weeks. But as we all know, the situation between the United States and Saudi Arabia has become somewhat untenable. With a member of the McMahon family in the cabinet, that's right, Linda McMahon, who you once saw chokeslammed by the aforementioned Undertaker and stunned by Stone Cold Steve Austin, is the Secretary of Small Business. Right. So the WWE has been very blatant almost in the last week saying that, hey, barring an act of God or barring Trump or the government itself saying we can't go, we're going to go. It's been interesting because leaks have started to happen because say what you know about professional wrestlers, at the core, they're drama nerds who hit the gym. And a lot of those guys, especially in today's locker room, made more progressive views, and it's becoming quite widely leaked that a lot of the workers don't necessarily feel comfortable going over to Saudi Arabia and playing a part in this propaganda. Furthermore, the crew, the people who have to work, the people working the cameras, people working the lights and sounds, they feel less than comfortable making this trip. And the WWE, technically in their relationship with their athletes, they're not employers. One of the wrinkles of professional wrestling is that they are independent contractors who are working under contract to the WWE, but they're not employees. Justin, this was featured it made all the way to John Oliver's last week tonight. He closed the Saudi Arabia segment last week with the WWE's relationship. At the time of this recording, the WWE has actually postponed ticket sales. And if you notice on their programming the last week, they've mentioned the Crown Jewel event, but they stopped mentioning where it was. They trotted out talking head Fox News suit filler John Bradshaw Layfield, who's been on the network as a financial consultant, out to say, if you want to change an area, you send the WWE, which is a weird thing to say, I think. Just outside looking in, you're not a fan, you're not someone who absorbs the product, but I don't think you've avoided the Saudi Arabia news, and I don't think you've avoided the large-scale other corporations neglecting to go to the region at this time. Do you think that this is going to be a situation where it's going to be a last-minute thing, or it feels like this not going should be a layup, but this isn't a voluntary conference that they're not going to. This is something that's contractually obligated, I guess. I don't feel good about it. I'll tell you that much as a fan. Outside looking in, what does this all look like to you?
I think you touched on it with the contractually obligated to go part. Again, not going is so easy. Just don't go. But if contracts were already made, money already exchanged, you have one of two choices. You can either pull out, face the financial consequences, and be like, hey, we can't go at this time. The block is too hot. Here's your money back, whatever. Or you go and say, hey, this was already negotiated. We support the Khashoggi family. We support, journalists worldwide. Whatever your fluff PR statement is, and you go, whatever. But yeah, it's a bad look. And that whole situation, every day the story gets more and more wild. Like I was listening to an NPR podcast on it, and the person they were talking to kept saying alleged murder. And they said, well, why do you keep saying alleged? And they said, we don't even know if the dude was murdered. We don't have a body. No one has actually verified that he was murdered. We just know he walked into a building and never came out.
That's you're 100% right. For me, it's so sticky because right now the WWE, because of kind of their promotional cycle, is promoting an event that's happening at the end of the month called Evolution. It's their first ever all-women's pay-per-view. And while it does feel nice and very progressive that they're making that step, it does feel kind of like naked in the light of, oh, you're also throwing another show where the women legally can't perform. So you're giving them their own pay-per-view earlier. And now with the way it's all shaking out with Crown Jewel, it paints this, which should be a historic, exciting event in Evolution, in kind of a really icky light. And I'm going to watch Evolution. I didn't watch Greatest Royal Rumble, partially because of the Saudi Arabia thing, and partially because I feel like it's a glorified house show. I don't really need to see it. Crown Jewel, they've suspended ticket sales. They're not mentioning where it is now. I think there's been rumors that maybe they're trying to do to relocate the show to the States and kind of do it like as a shoot show, do a quick show and fill up a big arena that way. I think they could pull it off because, honestly, they fill up everywhere they go. But it's going to become a situation where you wanted to keep sports and politics separate. You just plain can't. And even during the event that's proposed to happen, they have something called a World Cup, where they're going to have a tournament for the World Cup. And the reason they're having that is because they could not land the World Cup. So the WWE agreed to give them their own. That's a true story.
Yeah, it is impossible to keep politics out of sports because politics are human interactions and sports are played by humans. You can't escape it.
Even people who try to avoid it, you really can't. Bama fans, plug your ears, because Nick Saban appears in a new ad in West Virginia endorsing Democrat Joe Manchin. And people will say, Joe Manchin's barely a Democrat. Hey, look, it's West Virginia. You take what you can get. But I also remind you that Nick Saban gave the maximum amount allowable to both Obama and Hillary Clinton during their campaigns. Nick Saban's a lifelong Democrat. And if that makes you not feel great about it, well, tough shit, Alabama fans.
Yeah, the caricature of Nick Saban, much like the caricature of Johnny Manziel, does not match up with the well, you remember the whole Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football and Johnny Manziel were two completely different people.
Johnny Manziel's from Oil Money. It's just rich hillbillies. I love it. No one gets it. Like, everyone's like, he's from no. He's from this big family. Like, no. Those are literally hillbillies who found oil on their land. They're just rich hillbillies. You've got to stop treating them like certain things. But this is something where, when the Saban news breaks, you get the callers who are like, I don't come here to listen. I don't come to sports to keep your peanut butter out of my chocolate. But you don't, and you hear it when people kneel, and you hear it when people say, Trump's a bum. Shout out to LeBron. What you don't hear is when John Elway is appearing in ads for Republican candidates, or writing letters, or people writing letters on behalf of Brett Kavanaugh.
Using official letterhead of the organization to support Brett Kavanaugh.
Well, they don't want you to be mistaken, think it's a different John Elway. They want you to know John Elway, non-finder of quarterbacks, general manager and president of football operations, Denver Broncos. And this is the part of the program where I remind you that when John Elway retired, Bolin offered him a percentage of the team. And John Elway turned it down. John Elway now works for the team. Not a percentage, on salary. Because John Elway's a fucking idiot. This week, Paul Allen passed away. Known for he's a founder of Microsoft. He also was the owner of the Blazers and the Seahawks. And he had been behind some of the community initiatives and put his money behind them that the Seahawks have championed in recent years. And it's a tremendous loss for the sporting community. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what does happen with the ownership there. I think, obviously, there will be plans of succession in place. But Paul Allen wasn't one of those quiet owners. He was one of the owners whose names you knew. There's a lot of NFL owners whose names you don't know. But Paul Allen was one that you knew. And he did a very good job, particularly in the NFL, of cultivating that experience. And say something bad about a Blazers player online. Those Blazers fans loves their players, and they love their team, and they love their owner, and he will be missed. Owners who you do know, who you don't think of as fondly, include the Mara family. They own the Giants, and John Mara this week was out here saying that he wishes Odell Beckham would talk less and play more, in reference to Odell Beckham's interview alongside Lil Wayne, where he disparaged the disparage-worthy Eli Manning. I think John Mara should talk less and write more checks. What do you think?
I think you both missed the prime opportunity to quote Hamilton, talk less, smile more. I'm actually kind of disappointed, Mara being a New York guy. And yeah, he just talk less, smile more. Look, Odell Beckham Jr. is the best player on that team, right? We agree there.
Fact.
Eli Manning has not been good these last 2 years. Is that fair to say?
I would say since 2014, but okay.
Well, since 2014, but let us be generous and say last 2 years he hasn't been good. They're also stuck with Eli for whatever reason because they think those 2 Super Bowls mean something. For whatever reason, they've decided he won us 2 Super Bowls. We have to let Eli Manning go off on his own terms, blah, blah, blah. This is what you get, right? Like, I get you guys wanted Saquon Barkley. He was the best player on the board at the time you drafted, but you kind of need a succession plan for Eli Manning because that's what's holding your team back.
And right? Let's be real. They fired Ben McAdoo for benching Eli Manning.
Well, for hurting Eli Manning's feelings or offending his pride, whichever one.
Like, it's so weird. Like, you fired McAdoo behind Eli should start. And now we're out here like, yo, why is Eli starting? And McAdoo's at home like, the fuck I told you. Like, if McAdoo were to, like, appear unhinged and drunk, like, railing about the Giants on television somewhere, I'd be okay with it. I would get it.
Look, so now they're going to waste a year of a running back, and the shelf life for running backs is their rookie.
Not long.
Right. Putting more miles on that entire team for what? Now you have set your rebuild process back in a year where if you had actually had a succession plan, you might have been able to compete for this division because this division's kind of awful.
And quiet as kept, not a great quarterback class coming out.
I am told the quarterback at Oregon is good? Question mark.
Oh, he's good, but there's not like and that's the thing is, you're not going to be the only team who wants a quarterback.
You'll be the first team that gets a quarterback.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is not looking good for them. They got Atlanta on Monday night, and well, there won't be any defense played, but I only think one team is bringing an offense. So let's see
it's
how
not
that
like Atlanta's defense is hurt. Like, it's not like they're a bad defense. They're just
look, all the Pro Bowlers are hurt. Like, which is really, I was like, it was so funny because I was just like, not funny, it was tragic. But by week 3, I was like, so everyone who's worth a damn on our defense is now on the sidelines. And then we didn't sign Eric Reed. Fucking Panthers. And now I'm just like, yeah, this is it's all bad. You know what else is all bad? Aaron bleeping Rodgers. So I don't know if you watched Monday night, where Aaron bleeping Rodgers reaffirmed his status as the Michael Myers of the NFL. What do I mean? You think he's dead. You torqued his knee again. He's playing on one leg again. And he still beats you. Defense isn't great. His coach is literally holding him back. Like, literally. Mike McCarthy, people say Marvin Lewis should be fired. How is Mike McCarthy still employed? Marvin Lewis making the playoffs with Andy freaking Dalton is not fireable. Mike McCarthy ruining the prime of Aaron Rodgers. Let's have a conversation. Because this is getting ridiculous. And Justin, I found myself in a weird place. Not a huge horror movie guy. This is the first horror movie of the NFL where I'm cheering for the axe murderer. He's Michael Myers in the NFL, but he makes the killing look so damn good.
I am in awe every time I watch Aaron Rodgers. I was in the camp that was like, okay, his body is giving out on him. He had a great run, arguably a top 3 of this era, whatever you want to call it. Great quarterback. The body's giving out. It's time. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I assigned the qualities of mere mortals to, as you said, Michael Myers. If you stab Michael Myers, it only aggravates him. It is a minor inconvenience. One leg, psh, I'm making it. I'm evening the odds for you. That is what Aaron Rodgers is doing. I can't say enough good things about this. Like, this is astonishing. So
it's unreal, the stuff that he's able to pull off with this team. The Niners game, they won the game, obviously. He had 425 through the air and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
On one leg. Like, this is the what?
So here's my thing. Name a receiver on the Packers.
No. There's no point. It doesn't matter. He can have you and me. He can have you and me running out there running X and Y. And I think he'd at least get 300 yards.
And so that's my point. It's like, it's not like he's doing this with Odell Beckham on his team. No, he's doing this with, relative to professional athletes best at what they do, average talent.
At best. Average at best. Average is generous, in my opinion. Like, this is, like, you watch what he does, and he is an axe murderer, because the last, like, until you see a body, he's not dead. When he went down to that Bears game to open the season, and he went to the locker room, I was like, he's not dead. Like, what? I was like, he's not done yet. You tell me he's out, that's when he's out. And what did he do? He came back on one leg and beat Khalil Mack in that defense. Because he's Michael Myers, and you just can't kill him. You know who else reverted to form this weekend? Blake Bortles. So for, 2 years now, year and change, the Jacksonville Jaguars have been touting out there the league's best defense and basically a 20-sided die at quarterback. But the die topped out at 10, so like average was your best. But you weren't getting that very often. And he finally stopped rolling 10s. And they got demolished. And yeah, you can say the defense looked old, the defense looked slow, didn't look as aggressive. But I don't give it. Even the 85 Bears, Blake Bortles will cost you a football game if you let him. And they let him. Someone they're not letting cost any more football games. Okay, so I heard this stat this week that kind of blows me away. The distance in DVOA between the 31st and 30th team, I think it's like 2 points. So I think it's like 27 to 20, negative 27, negative 25. The total DVOA for the Buffalo Bills is negative 50.12. It's absurd. Like, and you got to realize that they're the 6th, going in before the Thursday night game, they were the 6th best defense in DVOA. And DVOA total is not an average. But think about how bad the offense has to be for the total DVOA to be negative 50.
I can only laugh.
And they
only laugh.
And they just lost Josh Allen. He got injured last week. And Nathan Peterman did more Peterman shit. And we're going to talk here about Nathan Peterman in a second. But so Josh Allen, you and I are both college football fans, and it's always a red flag when NFL guys start talking about a guy who you never heard about during college football season.
Yes.
Josh Allen was that guy for us. And once again, I got to turn to my college football heads and nod in agreement. We were all the fuck right. We talk about quarterbacks getting moved, and it's usually darker quarterbacks than this. Whether it's people saying, oh, try Mike Vick at slot, or the slash experiment in Pittsburgh, or the fact that Terrell Pryor has been actually a decently serviceable possession receiver. Move Josh Allen, the tight end. I've seen him run in the open field. He's got that deceptive speed. He's full of grit. But I think if he can catch, he'd better as a tight end, because this quarterback thing, he averages more yards per carry than he does per attempt.
The thing with Josh Allen, though, and I get it, he allegedly has an arm. So people fall in love with big arms. I guess I get it. My thing with the Bills is you had a Pro Bowler at quarterback. What are you doing?
Well, let's have that conversation, because you had a Pro Bowler. You're right, Tyrod Taylor. But for some reason, you felt like your fans wouldn't accept him. I can't imagine why. Buffalo, New York, and then you had another quarterback, AJ McCarron, who looked pretty good in preseason. You say you didn't want any more of those, and now when Josh Allen gets hurt, you try out the Peterman, who has now reached the point in his career after last week's debacle. He said, and I quote, "I'm not going to let football define who I am as a man," which is good. None of us, in a vacuum, that's a good statement. None of us should be defined by the thing that we work hardest at. I don't know. Our intrinsic value as people extends beyond the things that we can accomplish. I agree with that. However, if it's week, what are we at, 8? And you haven't had a good half ever, and you come out with the Tupac full, only God can judge me, it might be it for the Peterman.
Yeah, it's a wrap. He is a meme at this point.
Well, here's how bad it's gotten. Today, Josh Allen's still hurt, and they're not going to start Nathan Peterman. Who are they going to start? Carolina Panthers legend, Derek Anderson. I say legend because he was the foil in Carolina when certain people, Carolina, didn't want Cam Newton starting. They said, give Derek Anderson a shot. His first start in blue of Cam Newton. Cam was suspended for a series because he didn't wear a coat and tie or some shit. And they put in Derek Anderson. And Derek Anderson's start, his first series as a starter, lasted one play because he threw a pick. The nicest thing they've got on record, LaShawn McCoy. Derek Anderson is very smart. We'll have to help him out as an offense, but he's a veteran that is used to stepping in when needed. Woo!
Such a vote of confidence.
That's not even fake praise.
And again, you had a Pro Bowler on the
roster.
Pro
Bowler. It's remarkable. I'm going to move on to the next thing I'm going to laugh at, but before we get out of talk about quarterbacks, my nigga Patrick Mahomes. What is happening?
So I was not a believer in Mahomes. I thought he was really good. But I'm like, yeah, I mean, he's really good, but, he's just really good. Then I saw that Patriots game, and I said, oh, no, he's the truth. Like, this is a thing that's he's going to be a thing for a while.
It's going to be a problem. And also, I just love the fact that we get reconfirmation that, one, Andy Reid is the most fun person in football because his offense is just here to score points and not do anything else. And two, Andy Reid loves a black quarterback. I don't know. I need to go back and see how Andy Reid grew up, and Andy Reid loves a black quarterback, and we love him. Thank you very much, Andy, for putting on Pat Mahomes and exposing the world to whatever the hell he is. Have you heard his speaking voice?
No, I have not.
Go ahead and do that and then text me when you do. It's very funny. Let's talk about something that's been kind of a running gag on the show this year, the Chronicles of the Raiders. Because the Raiders are 1-5. And John Gruden this week announced that he released their 35-year-old captain, Derek Johnson, who is, I don't matter, on a 1-year contract anyway. You've got to remember that we're halfway through the first year of a 10-year, $100 million contract. I can guarantee this weekend Raiders fans will not be as impressed hearing this because they're on a bye and they're favored by 2.5 points. Gruden was asked in his Tuesday presser about the Raiders, quote, quite frankly, playing like shit. I'll say this, we're not tanking anything. I hear the hatred out there. Some of the rumors were tanking it to get a first-round draft pick or higher pick. We're not getting up at the 4 a.m. to tank it. Ain't nobody tanking it, which I believe. I believe John Gruden and the ownership group are not tanking. I also believe that's not the thing you want to hear when you're 1-5. If you're 1-5 and you're not tanking and you're getting up at 4 a.m., then something else is fucking wrong, and I don't think you're going to solve them in 9.5 years and $95 million. They asked him if he had any regrets, decisions he regretted. Sure, I regret some of them. I got a list of things I regret. I got a list of things. I'm sure you do too, unless you're perfect. I don't know. I don't think any of us are perfect. We're trying. We're working hard. I'm not going to never throw the ball on 1st and goal again. All my friends in the league do it. Now, John Gruden decided to do the old coach speak thing where he goes macro when you ask a very specific question. Do you have anything you've regretted? Well, yeah, I couldn't find my car keys that one day, yelled at my wife, found out they were in my other pocket. Like, I probably shouldn't yell at her. That's not what they meant, John. They meant Khalil Mack. You know they meant Khalil Mack. I know they meant Khalil Mack.
So, all right, here's the thing with Khalil Mack. Why? Why? So I've only read one explanation that makes any sense, and it's really more of an indictment of the Raiders organization as a whole.
I'm here for this.
There is reporting that it is a possibility that the reason they did not sign Khalil Mack had nothing to do with whether or not they wanted Khalil Mack. They literally could not afford
the liquidity
assets. Yeah. Yes, they could not afford the assets for the guaranteed portion of his contract. Like, they didn't have the assets no one would front them the collateral for it. Like, they literally could not afford to pay him.
Yeah, that's I've heard that rumor too. They'll never cop to it, obviously, because you can never say we're trying to. You can never say that. But part of me's like, it's got to be true because otherwise, what the hell? But part of me's like, it can't be true.
Right. Like, on the one hand, it's the only explanation that makes any sense. On the other hand, holy shit, that can't be true.
Right. We're going to move on from football, but not before we touch on a story that's gone horribly underreported that I think, while people generally don't care about the Dolphins, they should probably care about the story. Brock Osweiler will be starting again this Sunday. This is not a story because Brock Osweiler is a good quarterback, because he's not. Despite what we saw last week, he's not. He'll be starting this Sunday against Detroit, replacing Ryan Tannehill, who's a game day scratch with a shoulder injury in week 6. The question now is, what happened to Tannehill? When did it happen? And it's gotten so bad, the NFL is actually investigating this. Adam Gase got asked post-game about Tannehill. He cited HIPAA as why he couldn't answer, which is the first sign that someone's telling you a horrific bunch of lies, because if that were true, the NFL's injury report would be a HIPAA violation.
Yes.
Let's just make that very clear right now. If you buy that, then your name is probably Gase, and you're married to a Mr. Adam Gase. And I imagine, Mrs. Gase, that you have to listen to a lot of your husband's lies, particularly about HIPAA violations. Why didn't you take the trash out because of HIPAA violations? Now, here's the timeline. Armando Salgado of the Miami Herald's put one together. I'm going to link the piece in the show notes, but it looks like in week 5, he was injured when his arm was grabbed from behind mid-throw against the Bengals. He was sore on Monday after the game, got treatment, felt better. Tuesday came in, was sore still, got treatment, felt better. In response to their starting quarterback being sore, they pulled him out for a full practice on Wednesday. He said he got a little worse because, obviously not resting in the affected area. And the team trotted him out again on Thursday. For those who aren't familiar with how football work weeks go, Monday is usually or the first day of the week is usually install. A lot of classroom learning. That was his Tuesday when they threw him, or they didn't throw him. Wednesday is usually walkthrough, or the second day of the week is usually walkthrough, where you're implementing the things that you're doing for the week. And Thursday, or your third day, is going to be your full go practice, which for Ryan Tannehill would involve the most throwing on his sore arm. They trotted him out again for the full practice on Thursday. 1 week later, he's a game day scratch because he needs rest and rehab so he can regain full range of motion. At some point, he went for an MRI, but then he practiced again on Friday. The best case scenario is that the Dolphins mishandled an injury that required rest and overtaxed it. But did you say, hey, wait a second, why the HIPAA claim? Why the late scratch? Initially, because of the way they report injuries, he was listed as having a full participant in practice on Thursday. The NFL also wants to know that if they knew this about his shoulder, why on Sunday's game he was listed as questionable, which is league for 50-50 to start, when it was widely reported and bet upon that he was not going to be available to play, which Vegas makes money because Osweiler was good. That's not a good story, but it's true. Yeah, man. We're probably going to be looking at, because I think they have a Thursday game this week, we're not looking at 3 weeks of Brock Osweiler, win, lose, or draw, because the Dolphins didn't treat an injury right. And it looks like the union may have to step in and fight the team on this, and it looks like they'll have the backing of the league, because the league's investigating this, not the union. This is all bad, man.
Anytime the union and the organization, I don't want to say opposing the union, but I can't think of anytime management and labor are on the same side of an investigation, that is all bad for whoever is being investigated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're right. You're right. And if you're the Dolphins, like, this is like, it's Ryan fucking Tannehill, man. Like, what are we doing?
Look,
and why is no one investigating Green Bay? Aaron Rodgers can't walk.
They said, look, whatever you got to do to get Aaron Rodgers on the field, specifically in front of those cameras, you do what you got to do.
I apologize.
My favorite quote from Purple Rain: "It's still a business. You ain't too far gone to realize that." Let's not get silly here.
Yeah, man, it's all bad. And then what's crazy is we're seeing this happen in the NFL, where at least there's a union and whatnot to fight for them. Imagine what happens to college players. Oh, we're going to college. We're not going straight to football, though. We're going to go to college basketball. The second most underreported news story of the week is this NCAA Adidas money wire fraud trial.
Speaking of wild stories, what?
Insane.
So, okay. The NCAA is on trial, and largely by sports media, it has gone unreported. You have text messages from coaches and shoe representatives saying, oh, yeah, he wants cash up front and a house for his parents and a car. Okay, yeah, we can make that happen. What?
Well, we all knew it was happening. None of this is surprising. But the fact that Adidas had a black ops fund and operation to funnel this money, you've got coaches, including Bill Self, on text messages admitting to and agreeing to the payment of players. It's not making a blip anywhere, because technically the trial is that the shoe companies didn't pay them the money they said they would. Like, technically. Technically.
So you realize by winning that suit, you're admitting to violating NCAA regulation.
Listen, by filing that suit, by allowing the prosecution of these parties to be enacted, discovery has to occur. And what we're discovering has been described by Coach Krzyzewski as a blip. Now, I'm not going to point out the fact that Krzyzewski has players who are named in these indictments on his basketball team right now. Players who are confirmed to have received in the excess of $80,000 from agents, runners, and recruiters, and wound up somehow at Duke. I'm not going to point any of that out, because I feel like in this way, this is like the stories about Cam Newton's father getting money from Mississippi State and him going to Auburn. Well, they just gave him money. I don't see what the problem is. And you all know where I stand. I'm all for playing these players. I'm also for just keep an eye on the story. As a listener, everyone listening, I'm not going to get too far into it. There's lots of reading you can do. Please keep an eye on the story because how big is this story? The NBA's G League announced this week that they're offering to elite athletes a way to circumvent the one and done rule and make $150,000. Now, Justin, this seems like a decent idea, like on its face, but it runs into problems when you think critically about it. First and foremost, I could read these court transcripts. It sounds like the G League needs to get its money up.
Yeah. But what the G League offers that the Black Ops Fund of Adidas can't offer is union protection. So,
you know what else they offer? Taxes.
Yeah, there's also that too. Yeah.
Look,
I mean,
well, the thing about it is, and you and I are both college-educated men, there's more to learn on a college campus than in the classroom. Just kind of socially, just kind of the way you handle yourself in these surroundings. And I've always said, it's my biggest statement. People say, oh, what'd you learn when I was a sports agent? The thing I learned the most is football players are easily the most interesting and fun to talk to because say what you will about them, they were forced to spend at least 3 years on a college campus.
Yeah.
They had to be socialized in college for at least 3 years. The second most interesting are basketball players because they're basketball players. If you've ever met a basketball player, you know a basketball player. Third most interesting, hockey players because they're just drunk and fun. And the least interesting is baseball players because generally they're plucked from their high school, sent to a podunk town to have sex with townies and play baseball. And they go to the majors where they have sex with townies and play baseball.
I mean, that's the problem with baseball. The personalities.
There are none. They're not cultivated. Anyway, we'll talk about that. That's a whole other thing. But that's the first problem I have with this. I don't think it's enough money. But secondly, dog, the WNBA is right there. These women who we've covered are flying commercial to games. Flying, landing, and playing a game on the same day. If we're going to treat amateurs better than we treat our purported professionals, then you've got a problem. And guess what? It's becoming a much bigger fucking problem because the WNBA CBA, it's up on the 31st of October this year. And
yes, it is.
It's not like the NBA because they make more money at, let's just call it, their other jobs playing overseas. The WNBA for a lot of these women is a charity. They're doing it because they believe in the game in this country. It's time for the game to believe in them. And this CBA negotiation, a negotiation in which the WNBA has recently lost its president and her two top lieutenants, is going to be very interesting.
The thing to watch for is I forget the actual term for it, but the revenue sharing. The ownership management gets X, players labor gets Y. I would look, if I'm the WNBA, my goal is to get something comparable to what the NBA has in terms of revenue sharing. Right? Like that.
So part of the problem is on its face, the WNBA does not bring enough money for even a 50-50 split to be sustainable. Because these teams operate largely at the largesse of the NBA. A lot of them are propped up by NBA teams, and they require more than the 50-50 split to keep operations running. I understand that. But this is the time you invest. I don't even think it's about – I think if you want to build it in for future revenue sharing, once it's a plateau or once it's a certain elevator point, you can do that. Right now, you've got to improve the conditions for these players. Maybe not forces to say, hey, we're going to give everybody's – by the way, just for those of you who do know, the CBA currently negotiated, there's a maximum salary in the WNBA. And it's not that high. Go Google it. But what I think's got to happen first is the qualities and the treatment of the players that change. Like chartered planes should be a must. Things of that nature. Like these players should be treated like professionals. And I think that that's the first way you start showing the respect that I think that they're earning because what's always been said has been proven in the last 5 years. If you expose them, people will come. People always said, no one watches. That's because the games are on television. The ESPN deal, putting them on television, has increased viewership 100-fold. This game, the WNBA, is more popular than it has been, so it's time for the NBA to continue to invest in it, not to cut back.
You know what else improves exposure? Like an underreported thing that improves exposure, right? Because putting it on television and growing your core fan base is good, but something else that improves exposure, video games. I'm not even kidding about this. NBA Live has the WNBA in Live 19. You can create your own player, as you can create your own woman character and have them go through their own single player story, go online, do all the other stuff. And it is fully integrated with the WNBA, the whole collect players, and like you build your own team from players and play other people who've built their own teams from players. Fully integrated the WNBA into that as well. Ratings are equal across the board. It's like that. It may seem minor, but if I am a casual basketball fan and I see that and I say, oh, hey, there's Elena Della Donna. She's a 90 overall. I can put her on my team. Who is this person? Now I'm invested in this person who's just a piece on a game board. Now I'm invested in this person. Oh, Skylar Diggins. She's apparently good. Let me add her to my team. What about her? You're now getting casual fans interested in your product. And that is another way to cultivate your fan base. Which, again, goes back to your original point of investing.
Okay, so I'm glad you shared that. I need that to come to 2K because I'm not buying Live. I'm just not going to do it. It's not going to happen. Chrissy Tolliver is an active WNBA player. She is the first active WNBA player to take a coaching position in the NBA. She'll be on the Wizards bench this year, something to watch out for. And as I mentioned earlier, these early NBA games, they don't feel like October, brother. They seem awfully serious about this business of basketball these days. And it all came to a head with LeBron's debut at Staples last night. Lakers fans, congratulations on accepting LeBron into your fold. And remind you once again, I am not one of you people. I'm a LeBron fan. We're at an agreement in our purposes right now. And while the story should have been the Kings' coronation in Staples, it actually ended up being fight night in LA because Rondo did something we've all been waiting to do, and that's punch Chris Paul in the face. And for those of you who haven't seen the video, first of all, weird. Second of all, stop the podcast, go watch the video, watch it in slow motion. We're recording, it's about noon here in Atlanta, and I have watched it no less than 10 times. There's an argument, and Rondo and Paul are nose to nose. Rondo says something. Paul rubs his face, and then puts his fingers in Rondo's face. Now, Justin, I'm not sure, we didn't grow up together. I don't know how you were raised, how you're raising your son. But if someone puts their hands in your face, that is, from my understanding, international code for it's time.
In the olden days, it was taking off your glove and slapping them across the face. That is when a duel has come in.
That is the equivalent, yes, the evolutionary equivalent, yes.
We no longer wear silk gloves. The new initiation of a duel is you put your finger in someone's face.
Oh my goodness. He didn't just, and I don't know if Chris Paul doesn't know that because he looked downright surprised by the two-piece he caught.
Chris Paul has crossed so many lines. He was just shocked that somebody actually decided today was the day, Christopher Paul, that we have had enough.
And for those of you who are saying Chris Paul is cute and cuddly, he's a State Farm rep. He had his son that one year. They didn't make the Western Conference Finals again because he was in LA and they can't build a team around Chris Paul and make a finals of anything. I'm going to take you back to 2005. 2005. Justin, 2005. My man, I was young. Let's leave it at that. I was 20 years old. I was in college, living the dream. And Chris Paul was in college as well at Wake Forest. And they were playing North Carolina State. And you know what he did? He punched Julius Hodge in the nuts. You know what he's done since then? Punch people in the nuts.
He is a line stepper like this. Chris Paul brand.
He's a line ignorer. That line is a suggestion to Chris. That line means nothing to Chris Paul. And for so many years, he would cross that line, and because his go-to, if someone say signature move, his Hulk Hogan leg drop, his Randy Savage elbow drop, his Bret Hart sharpshooter was to punch you in the nuts, so you couldn't really react. He decided to go off book this year and push Rajon Rondo in the face. Now, there's been claims out of the Houston camp that Rondo spit on him. I've watched this motherfucker 10 times today. There's no spit. There's no spit. I've been in situations where people have been spit on. And when I tell you that there's a reaction to being spit on, Chris Paul did not display it once. When someone is spit on, go watch a fight video where so-and-so spits on so-and-so. The spit-y, if you will, has a reaction. And it's not calmly wipe your face and put your fingers in someone's face. No. If you're spat upon, then the only reaction is fury and sometimes wild swinging. So this whole Rondo spit on Chris Paul thing, don't believe the hype. Now, if you want to say this is a beef that extends back to 2009 because Rondo and Chris Paul never liked each other, let's have that conversation. Because apparently during New Orleans Hornets at that time, the NBA is weird. The New Orleans Jazz just moved the team. Anyway. New Orleans Hornets, Chris Paul, got into a spat with Rajon Rondo, and Rondo said, "You'll never win a ring," which is some innocuous type shit talking for an NBA player, but at the same time, it's like coldly accurate when talking about Chris Paul. And this grudge has continued, and finally, I didn't know Rondo had a left like that. That's what gets me. The right was nice, but the left, the over-the-top left hook, that was the one I was like, well, that's what's going to happen. Brandon Ingram came at the end, delivered some hits. He ran some hits upon Chris Paul's head because Ingram's tall and Paul is not. And, everyone's getting suspended. And they should be suspended because, as we talked about before the show, you can't fight in the NBA.
Yeah, you can't fight in the NBA. You can fight in hockey. I think it's weirder to allow them to fight in hockey, actually. There's already so much physical contact, and fighting just puts them at greater risk for head trauma. Right. You can – do they – so what is the actual stance of fighting in baseball? I know it happens.
Well, it happens, but it's like okay, here's how I gauge fighting in sports. Where does it land on SportsCenter? This morning's SportsCenter did not open with the number 2 team in the nation losing to an unranked Purdue squad, which I cannot fucking wait to talk about. It opened with the fisticuffs. So basketball is the worst, some would say, because there's an optics version. Also, I think it's because the crowd's too close. Everyone's just too close. The line between field of play and the audience isn't there. The courtside seats things is a thing for a reason.
Right.
So I think that's one of the reasons why basketball fights are taken as more seriously. Also because, let's just say it, everyone in a basketball fight is a brown person.
Yeah, there's that as well.
I'm not going to pretend it's not an aspect, but you're right. You cannot fight in basketball. The field of play is too close to the stands, and let's just go from there. If there's a fight in football, it might make the A block. If there's a baseball brawl, it is something that's mentioned during the coverage of the game as kind of a look at those boys being boys. Bench is clear, everyone goes back down. And in hockey, you may not know a fight happened until you check the box score because they keep box scores for fights.
Yeah, apparently there's a resource you can go to online where it tracks a player's fight statistics, which is a thing that is tracked in hockey.
And that's the biggest thing I want to say about the NBA is that I get why you can't fight. I just wish that there was a whole generation of fans who knew if their favorite player could fight. LeBron James is my favorite player in the world. Do I know LeBron James can fight? Absolutely not. I think 6'8", 260, I think he can. I suspect he'd be fine, but I have no evidence that he can fight.
Right.
I have evidence Rasheed Wallace can fight.
We have evidence Kareem Abdul-Jabbar can fight.
Oh, that clip was floating around the internet this morning.
Yes.
It's great.
Don't call about it.
Yo, if you haven't seen this video, check my Twitter feed at dpalm66. But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar gets elbowed by old buddy on the way down in the transition. He takes about 3 or 4 deep breaths, regains his shit, and punches this man in the side of the head.
The best part of that video is the guy knows it's coming. It's I earned this one.
So he'll sneak me if I don't keep looking. If I don't keep looking, he'll say, he got me anyway. Damn.
He's just like, accept it. I deserved it. Like that. I had that one coming.
I had it coming. And that's the kind of thing that I'm not one of those old, like, in my day, I peeled both ways in the snow. But there was a place in the NBA for a dude who had some talent, but also had them hands. And I feel like we become a talent-first league, which is probably for the best. Aesthetically, it's more pleasing. I get it. I just like those days when I knew who could fight and couldn't fight. And I knew that Charles Barkley could fight a civilian, but could not fight a fellow NBA player. Ooh, buddy. Yeah, it's our shit. I remember that Shaq fight. Nobody should fight Shaq, but Charles really, he really shouldn't have fought Shaq. Let's talk. I've been putting off long enough. College football. And I have a lot of good, fun stuff to talk about, but you're here. We got to talk about that game first. Georgia-Florida's coming next weekend. Justin, what do you think's going to happen?
Okay. Before we can talk about Florida-Georgia, because how we feel about this game centers around one team, LSU. That's fair, right?
This is me giving you the floor. Just talk.
No, so I need an honest answer from you. Do you believe LSU is a good football team?
Yes. I said this. Maybe not. I don't know. But the thing about it is I didn't ring in this bell since the preseason podcast I did with Floyd. I said the one game I'm worried about is the LSU game. I said, why? I said, because you're going to have because you're going to be on a roll going in. You have the look-ahead factor going to Florida, and the LSU game just sits there. Going to Baton Rouge is always a dicey proposition. I knew we'd lose this game. Susan was like, I'm going to go over to one of our friends' house, help plan this wedding that they're having. And I was like, cool, just leave me at the house. I got a bottle of whiskey. I'll be fine. She says, why are you worried? Georgia's playing great this year. I said, because I know my team. And she came back. She's like, huh, you were right. I was like, it's not funny. I didn't enjoy this. But I knew in August that we were going to lose this game. I did not know that it was like this.
So knowing you were going to lose doesn't mean that LSU's actually good, right? Like Florida beat LSU. I don't think LSU's a good team. I don't think Florida's a good team, actually. I think our O-line sucks. Felipe Franks is not a good quarterback. Our defense has one good corner, and everyone else is just like, whee!
Well, the thing about the difference between LSU and Florida is that I think that LSU is a collection of good athletes and good players.
Yes.
I'm not entirely sure what's happened with your recruiting, but I'm not entirely convinced there's 22 good football players in the Florida sideline.
I can count 10 on both sides of the football. But again, the reason people feel weird about Florida-Georgia is, well, Florida beat LSU and LSU beat Georgia. I don't think that that's a good barometer for this game. I'll put it this way. If Florida wins, I will be genuinely shocked.
If Florida wins, I'm not speaking to you for a month. How about that?
I don't think I'll have the ability to speak for a month if Florida somehow pulls this off. But conversely, like going back to LSU, if LSU somehow manages to miraculously beat Alabama, that also would not shock me. And I still don't think LSU is good, but somehow they've cobbled together these athletes to function in some sort of, I don't want to say unit, a blob, a mass, a thing that just sort of rolls over, crushes anything in its path, and it might hit a rocket. If it hits the rocket, it'll bump and hiccup, and then just keeps on rolling until it crashes into a wall. I think that's what LSU is. So just because Georgia got ran over by the cartoon boulder, I don't think that means Georgia's bad. I definitely don't think that means Florida's going to beat Georgia.
This is an elaborate anti-jinx. I don't appreciate it. And I'll say this. If LSU beat Bama, I would be surprised because I've watched Bama this year. And if anyone beats Bama, I will be genuinely surprised.
Well, Bama is by and large the best, is like by far margin the best team in college football.
It's not even close this year. Like someone said, so what's your Final Four? Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Bama B. Like you just put a Bama B squad in there, and someone said, no, it's Bama, just the cast is upside down.
But like again, LSU is such like a cartoon character of a football team. They'll probably figure out a way to do it.
You're just saying that because
it will happen in the dumbest way possible. It will happen to be like the dumbest, like, how is this happening? Like balls flying off of people's helmets, getting intercepted, returned to the house by people tripping over themselves. Like it'll be that kind of thing, which is like, you know what? We're just not meant to win this game. Like, you know, you're playing Madden occasionally, and the computer will decide you're not winning today.
Yeah. Yep.
Today is the day you lose.
That's what's going to take for Bama to fall this year. I really do think so because It's getting untenable for me just to watch as a fan. Like let's do this now, because I do the SEC scores every week because it's the only conference that actually matters. SEC football roundup, brought to you by me. Arkansas beat Tulsa 23-0. Auburn beat Ole Miss 31-16. Tennessee was rolled by Bama 58-21. 58.
The Butch Jones redemption tour.
That's what I want to talk about really quickly. So Butch Jones, I want to get this on. I have the actual tweet here because there's a stat that I need here. Because you've got to realize that Butch Jones used to coach at Tennessee, and they used to play Bama every year. It's one of those locked-in East-West rivalries. Butch Jones finally smoked his victory cigar during this game. He did so by beating Tennessee, which is a team that will be paying him $200,000 a month until 2021. Yes, $200,000 a month for the next 3 years. They paid him to beat them. Oh, Tennessee. Oh, Tennessee.
Remember when Tennessee was good? Like a relevant college football program?
His name is Philip Fulmer.
Steve Spurrier got Philip Fulmer fired.
And nothing's ever been the same. It'll never be like that again.
Nope.
And good, because fuck Tennessee. That color orange is awful. Mizzou beat Memphis 65-33. 65, good God. LSU beat Mississippi State 19-3. Again, is LSU a good team? I don't know, but they beat Mississippi State, so fine. Kentucky continues to beat Kentucky and win football games. They beat Vanderbilt 14-7. Not aesthetically pleasing, but Bobby damn, they did win the game. We're going to go to the top 25 next. I made fun of them last week because the no Nebraska team had ever started that poorly. Congratulations to Scott Frost for finally winning a football game for Nebraska. I don't think the Nebraska fans will be as magnanimous as I am, but I, for one, salute you. Wisconsin beat Illinois 49-20. Iowa beat Maryland 23-0. Michigan beat Michigan State 21-7. And people were saying that this is John Harbaugh's, or whatever Harbaugh's there, signature win in Michigan, which then says, oh my God, it's gone that poorly.
Yeah.
For the record, Michigan is ranked 6th in this country. Michigan State's 24, but in the last 10 years, Michigan State's never not covered at least against Michigan. This is the first blowout in the series in a very long time. People are calling it a signature win. Justin, you can't have a signature win against your rival when your rankings aren't even close. And I guess you have to if this is all you got. Maybe you look at the Harbaugh resume. It's not great.
You cannot have a signature win against your in-state rival the third year into your coaching tenure? That's damning. That's really damning.
It's a finally thing. It's not a signature thing. It's a finally thing.
Yeah.
You should have won it by now. Oklahoma beat up TCU 52-27. Cincinnati lost to Temple 17-24 in overtime. Colorado lost to Washington 27-13. Penn State beat Indiana 33-28. Clemson. Okay, NC State. We let you be ranked. You were 16th in the nation. You went to Clemson, and you lost 41-7. Give us back your ranking. And don't come back here again. We're done with you, NC State. And if you're an NC State fan, first of all, why? Second of all, you know, I'm not being rude. I'm being right. UCF beat ECU 37-10. UConn lost to USF 38-30. Washington State, which hosted College Game Day, pulled off a major upset, beat Oregon 20-34. That's a 25 team in the nation, beating number 12 team in the nation. But Upset Central lived in West Lafayette, Indiana last night as the Purdue Boilermakers held on to beat the Ohio State Buckeyes. I say held on. I shouldn't say held on. Mollywopped the Ohio State Buckeyes 49-20. Justin, tell me you stayed up to watch this game.
I saw the holder truck that man for the first down, and I knew, they're losing this game.
That's not a holder. That's a punter.
I'm sorry, what?
They're holders, they're punter, my friend. That was a punter. Woo woo!
So you're telling me the punter trucked a defensive back?
You wanted a punter? All we got this here train, baby.
It couldn't happen to a better team.
Greg Schiano's defense continues to be ass because Greg Schiano is a terrible person. Everybody on offense, they threw 72 times and scored 20 points. 72 passes, Justin.
So who gets fired first? Because both of those are fireable offenses.
Greg Schiano's got to be fired. If Greg Schiano's still employed Monday, well, Actually, the barometer for firing people is pretty high at Ohio State, isn't it?
Well, that got dark.
Well, I mean, look, I was saying you should fire him, but he's kept him on for less. And as we're done talking about college football in Ohio State, I want to give one last shout out. Nick Bosa was injured this season. There was rumors that he'd be working out to return to the Ohio State defense, kind of steady the waters. Well, he announced this week that he will not be returning to school. They'll be taking his talents and preparing for the NFL draft this spring. I was wrong about Nick Bosa's older brother's talents and abilities in the NFL. I thought it wouldn't translate. I was wrong. He's great. And I'm glad that he was getting his brother's ear and telling him some truths about this here game and saying that they're going to pay you to play it. Don't do it for free. And I know there have been some Ohio State faithful, fewer than I thought I'd see, decrying the solution to the situation and saying that he wished he'd chosen to stay. But I think that we're finally coming around as a society like, nah, man, get your money. We're giddy. We're understanding. There's a level of empathy for these players, partially because Nick Bosa is, let's say, a photo negative of most of the players. But it's a level of empathy that you didn't see 10 years ago. You didn't see 5 years ago. You didn't see a couple years ago when Leonard Fournette's sitting out of a bowl game.
Right, because these kids, because they're kids, trade on their bodies, and you're asking them to put their bodies at risk for free.
Why would I? For literally nothing.
But they get scholarships and housing and education. Staring directly into the camera. I can't wait for that LeBron documentary, by the way.
Have you not seen it?
Oh, it's out already.
Student Athletes is out.
Oh, yeah, okay. Let me. As soon as
I talked about it on the show a couple weeks ago. But yeah, text you. Like, we should have we may do a separate UD pod on that. Like, it's that good. And I told you on the show, but I'm going to tell you now. The coach involved, John Shoup, is Bob Shoup's brother who recruited me to Columbia. And when I tell you there's a difference between nature and nurture, John and Bob Shoup are my examples. And that's all I'll say about that. I'm not going to speak ill of someone I actually know on the show. But, yes. Actually, let's get out of here. Tell me where they can find you, bro.
Yeah, man. You can find me personally at LJ90 on Twitter. You can check out the podcast, 3fifthpodcast.com, THREEFIFSPODCAST. We're on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play Music, anywhere that you get your podcast except Spotify. We're not there yet. Check us out. Give us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. I do appreciate you coming on. And this has been the Unanimous Decision Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at UDPod. You can follow the entire MTR Network at the MTR Network. You can follow me all across social media at DPalm66. That was your show. This is your outro. See you guys next week.